Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, talks between Narad and King Prachin Barahi. Text number 50 onwards. So Narad Muni is further speaking to King Prachin Parishad. Harir deha britatmatma swayam prakritirishvaraha tatpad moolam sharanam yatah kshemo nirnamiha. Shri Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a super soul and guide of all living entities who have accepted material bodies within this world. He is the supreme controller of all material activities and material nature. He is also our best friend, and everyone should take shelter at his lotus feet. In doing so, one's life will be auspicious. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. The living entity is within the body, and the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also there. He is called Antaryami and Chaitya-Guru. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, he is controlling everything. So Supreme Personality of Godhead as super soul is controlling everything. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Everything is being directed by the super soul within the body. Therefore, the better part of valor is to take his direction and be happy. To take his directions, one needs to be a devotee, and this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Although the super soul is in everyone's heart, he talks only to the pure devotees who constantly engage in his service. So it's not like we all can claim, oh, God is talking to me and I'm listening to Paramatma and he is the one who guiding me. He's the one who instructed me what to do, what not to do. He talks only to the pure devotees who constantly engage in his service. One who has fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna is to be understood as having the best education and as having studied all the Vedas. There are also appropriate quotes in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The perfect result of an education is the fixing of one's mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Or conquering the world by means of material education is not desirable. If one engages himself in devotional service, his education is perfected. The purpose of education is to understand Krishna and his devotional service. If one does not do so, then education is false. Being cultured, educated, very active and religious means developing natural love for Krishna. Everyone has dormant love for Krishna, and by culture and education that has to be awakened. That is the purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement. Once Lord Chaitanya asked Ramanand Rai what the best part of education was, and Ramanand Rai replied that the best part of education is advancement in Krishna consciousness. So this is the real education when one becomes a devotee and Krishna from within, he guides him. As Paramatma, he tells him what to do. That is a real education. But to come to that level, it takes time. So we need both material and spiritual education, and we slowly make progress. And just like in the shloka says, if everyone should take shelter at his lotus feet, and in doing so, one's life will be auspicious. Savai priyatamaschatma yato na bhayamanam api iti ved savai vidvan yo vidvan sa gurur hari. One who is entangled in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence. This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a super soul and friend of everyone. One who knows this secret is actually educated, and one thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world. One who is an actually bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna, is not different from Krishna. So, not different from Krishna means he's a representative of Krishna. It doesn't mean he is Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. The spiritual master is described in every scripture as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is accepted as identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is the most confidential servant of the Lord. The purport is that both the super soul and the individual soul are very dear to everyone. Everyone loves himself, and when he becomes more advanced, he loves the super soul also. A person who is self-realized does not recommend the worship of anyone but the super soul. He knows that to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead is easier than to worship various demigods under the influence of lust and the desire for material enjoyment. So worshipping Krishna is easier than to worship various demigods because worshipping of Krishna is done with love. And with others, there's so many rules and regulations, and if we don't follow the rules, then the demigods might get angry with us. But in worship of Krishna, he never gets angry with his devotee. He deals with these devotees accordingly as they have surrendered. But he does not get angry with his devotees. But if there is any little discrepancy in worship of demigods, you might not get full benefit. The devotee is therefore always engaged in the loving devotion service of the Lord. Such a person is a true guru. Even if a Brahman is very learned in Vedic scriptures and knows the 6 occupational duties of a Brahman, he cannot become a guru or spiritual master unless he is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, if one is born in a family of dog eaters but is a pure devotee of the Lord, he can become a spiritual master. The conclusion is that one cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a pure devotee of the Lord. One who is a spiritual master in accordance with the above descriptions of devotion service is to be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally present. According to the verse mentioned here, Guru Hari, consulting a bona fide spiritual master means consulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally. One should therefore take shelter of such a bona fide spiritual master. Success in life means accepting a spiritual master who knows Krishna as the only supreme beloved personality. One should worship such a confidential devotee of the Lord. So that is why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Yasya Sadat or Sakshat Dharitvena, a spiritual master is as good as the Supreme Lord. But that spiritual master, Prabhupada is giving the example, he should be fully surrendered and fully be in fully communion with the Lord. So Prabhupada again and again is a bona fide spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master. It cannot be that one can claim himself to be a spiritual master. There's so many qualifications Prabhupada has listed at different places about a spiritual master. And for a devotee, a disciple also. But a good disciple can become a good spiritual master by following his spiritual master properly. So just like just like Prabhupada. I mean, if we look at the earlier life of Prabhupada, before he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even after meeting him, for so many years, he didn't take up the process seriously. We can say, oh, he was not a spiritual master. Earlier, he didn't have any of those qualities. But he always had the spiritual qualities. It just only after meeting his guru and taking initiation, those spiritual qualities came forth. They just became more prominent. Narad Vacha Prashna Evam Hi Sanchinno Bhavata Purusha Risham Atrame Badato Guyam Nishamai Sunashchitam. The great saint Narad continued, O great personality, I have replied properly about all that you have asked me. Now hear another narration that is accepted by saintly persons and is very confidential. Shri Narad Muni is personally acting as a spiritual master of King Parishma. It was Narad Muni's intention that through his instructions, the king would immediately give up all engagements in fruitive activity and take to devotion service. However, although the king understood everything, he was still not prepared to give up his engagements. As the following verses will show, the king was contemplating sending for his sons who were away from home, executing austerities and penances. After their return, he would entrust his kingdom to them and then leave home. This is the position of most people. They accept a bona fide spiritual master and listen to him. But when the spiritual master indicates that they should leave home and fully engage in devotion service, they hesitate. The duty of the spiritual master is to instruct the disciple as long as he does not come to the understanding that this materialistic way of life, fruitive activity, is not at all beneficial. Actually, one should take to devotional service from the beginning of life, as Prahlad Maharaj advised. Kaumara acharit pragya dharman bhagavataneha. According to all the instructions of the Vedas, we can understand that unless one takes to Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is simply wasting his time, engaging in the fruitive activities of material existence. Narad Muni therefore decided to relate another allegory to the king so that he might be induced to give up family life within material existence. So for King Prachin Bharishat, Narad Muni has given one allegorical story of King Puranjan. And then he gave him the direct instructions. Now he's going to give him some other story. So King Prachin Bharishat is at that level where he could or he can leave the kingdom, and his sons, Prachetas, can come later to take over. But everybody's life is different. Idea is to engage oneself in devotion service. Just like the other day we were discussing about Grihasthas taking up devotion service. Yes, it doesn't give a lot of time, but whatever time Grihasthas can engage in devotion service, that has to be quality time. And many times it becomes quality time because they're very eager to perform that service, and this is the only time that they can do so. Other ashrams are also very difficult. I'm not saying other ashrams are easy. Brahmachari or Vanprasth or Sannyas. but they have more time they can devote to devotion service. And many times that intensity is not there. So it all depends upon how determined we are and how desperate we are. So anyway, without commenting on anybody else, we have to look at our lives and whatever time we can devote should do it with the urgent need. And then the results will be amazing. Text 53. Shudram charam sumanasam sharane mititva raktam shadangri ganasamasu lubdha karanam agre vrikan sutripo avignaya yantam prishthe mrigam mrigaya lubdha kabana bhinnam. My dear king, please search out that deer who's engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business and he's enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Just try to understand his position. He's unaware that before him is a tiger who's accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who's threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. Here is an allegory in which the king is advised to find a deer that is always in a dangerous position. Although threatened from all sides, the deer simply eats grass in a nice flower garden, unaware of the danger all around him. All living entities, especially human beings, think themselves very happy in the midst of the families, as if living in a flower garden and hearing the sweet humming of bumblebees. Everyone is centered around his wife, who's the beauty of family life. The bumblebees humming may be compared to the talk of children. The human being, just like the deer, enjoys his family without knowing that before him is a factor of time, which is represented by the tiger. The fruitive activities of a living entity simply create another dangerous position and oblige him to accept different types of bodies. For a deer to run after a mirage of water in the desert is not unusual. The deer is also very fond of sex. The conclusion is that one who lives like a deer will be killed in the due course of time. Vedic literatures therefore advise that we should understand our constitutional position and take to devotion service before death comes. According to Bhagavatam, after many births we have attained this human form. Therefore, before death comes, we should engage ourselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is a fulfillment of human life. So now he's giving another allegory, that deer who's eating grass in a very nice flower garden, along with his wife, and the bumblebees are singing in the garden, and he's unaware. Before him is a tiger, and behind him is a hunter. Both are ready to kill him. Sumanah sam dharmanam strinam sharanam ashrame push madhu gandhavat kshudratamam kamaya karm ivapakajam kam sukhalavam jayopasthyadi vichintvantam mithuni bhuya tadavinive shitmanasam shadangri ganasam geet vadati manohar vanitadi Janalapeshva Atitaram Tipralebhit Karanam Agre Rikayutha Vadatmanam Ayur Harto Ahoratrantanatam Kala Lavashesha Naviganaya Griheshu Virantam Prishtat Eva Paroksham Anu Privrito Lubdaka Kritanto Anta Sharen Yamiha Pari Paravidyati Tamimam Atman Manmam Maho Rajan Bhin Hirdayam Drishtum Arhasiti. Wow, good luck memorizing this verse. My dear king, woman who's very attractive in the beginning but in the end very disturbing is exactly like the flower, which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With women, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires, and he enjoys sex, just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys a life of sense gratification, from his tongue to his genitals. And in this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who's trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. Means death can come at any time, at any moment. Materialistic life means forgetting one's constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna. And this forgetfulness is especially enhanced in the Grihastha ashram. In the Grihastha ashram, a young man accepts a young wife who's very beautiful in the beginning. But in due course of time, after giving birth to many children and becoming older and older, she demands many things from the husband to maintain the entire family. At such a time, the wife becomes detestable to the very man who accepted her in her younger days. One becomes attached to the Grihastha ashram for two reasons only. One becomes attached to the Grihastha ashram for two reasons only. The wife cooks palatable dishes for the satisfaction of her husband's tongue, and she gives him sexual pleasure at night. A person attached to the Grihastha ashram is always thinking of these two things, palatable food and sex enjoyment. The talks of the wife, which are enjoyed as a family recreation, and the talks of the children both attract the living entity. He thus forgets that he has to die someday and has to prepare for the next life if he wants to be put into a congenial body. So about the palatable dishes, it is said that the shortest path to a man's heart is through his stomach. So which is true what Prabhupada is saying, what Narad Muni is saying in his verse. And this is the main reason one gets married. The deer in the flower garden is an allegory used by the great Narad to point out to the king that the king himself is similarly entrapped by such surroundings. Actually, everyone is surrounded by such a family life, which misleads one. The living entity thus forgets that he has to return home back to Godhead. He simply becomes entangled in family life. Prahlad Maharaj therefore hinted, Hitvatno patam griham andakupam. Family life is considered a blind well into which a person falls and dies without help. Prahlad Maharaj recommends that while one's senses are there and one is strong enough, he should abandon the Grihastha ashram and take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, going to the forest of Vrindavan. According to Vedic civilization, one has to give up family life at a certain age, the age of 50, take vanaprastha and eventually remain alone as a sannyasi. That is a prescribed method of Vedic civilization known as Varnashram Dharma. When one takes sannyas after enjoying family life, he pleases the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. One has to understand one's position in a family or worldly life. That is called intelligence. One should not always remain entrapped in family life to satisfy his tongue and genitals in association with the wife. In such a way, one simply spoils his life. According to Vedic civilization, it is imperative to give up the family at a certain stage, by force if necessary. Unfortunately, so-called followers of Vedic life do not give up their family, even at the end of life, unless they are forced by death. There should be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles That is the 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. So like this post talks of Prabhupada with his disciples, I posted the group today, and Prabhupada says, Vrindavan is anywhere we are serving Radha Krishna, we are chanting their names, we are dancing in the kirtan. That is the place where Vrindavan is. It's not, I mean, of course, where the geographic location of Vrindavan, that is also Vrindavan. But Vrindavan can be anywhere, wherever the devotees are. So point is, it's not like we have to leave everything and go to the forest of Vrindavan. If somebody can do that, that's great. But better than that, what Prabhupada has taught us, to make our home as Vrindavan and to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to all. So bringing them to Vrindavan or closer to Vrindavan, that is our main duty. So if we are doing that, then we have no problem if we all live in the Grihastha ashram with the respective husband wives and preach, follow ourselves and preach. That is the whole purpose. But what Narad Muni is chastising King Prachin Bharishad, and Prabhupada is speaking heavily of, is getting too attached to family life, so attached that one cannot give up the family life even at the time of death. Just like King Puranjan, he was thinking of his wife when he left his body, and who will take care of her and who will take care of my sons. And then he had to take a woman body next life. And this goes on and on and on and on. There's no stopping of this. So the point is that this is not what we are here for. We have to develop our spiritual goals. Progress has to be on the spiritual path. And in doing that, whatever helps, we have to adopt that whatever helps and just keep on making progress. And I know even these days going to Vrindavan and living in Vrindavan is also not considered very safe. So it's better to stay wherever we are, but chant and preach. That is the main thing, and serve the deities at home. That's the main thing. So if you follow that, then we are in Vrindavan. We're not different. We're not away from Vrindavan. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Suppose we are in a place where we have to worship our Laddu Gopal or Krishna, and we have other demigods also like Durga Ji and Shankar Bhagwan and everything. So and mainly people have a very a set of process of worshipping them. So I feel very perplexed that how should I deal with means. While worshipping there, should as a devotee of Krishna, we should try to when we are trying to be a devotee of Krishna, we should try to worship all these demigods also in along with Krishna, or how should we deal with that situation?
Well, whatever is necessary to keep the peace in the household. And if it's a family tradition and you have to do it, just do.
Okay.
I don't know what but constraints are there or what requirements are there. That I don't know. But if to keep peace in the family. And you keep in mind that these demigods are representatives of Krishna only. They are powered by Krishna, empowered by Krishna. And they all are Vaishnavas. They all are devotees of Krishna. So in that mood, you serve them.
Prabhuji, like many of the houses, the Thursdays now, instead of it's a Vishnu day, means it is getting replaced by people have that Sai Baba. I do respect Sai Baba, but the thing is that they have their proper seva and they do for Sai Baba. So how, I mean, we should be help we should help them doing that also when we are doing it, when the responsibility is ours to worship their god, so we should be doing the puja for all the good god, right?
See, Sai Baba is not God. That's for sure. Now, some people do worship him.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, if your in-laws are forcing you to worship him, what you can do is at least give him Krishna Prasad. That you can do.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
he is not a demigod, but must be a very siddha person, because otherwise there's no way he can be so popular and people worshipping him. So many people worshipping him. So some sadhu, some mahatma, he must be who had lots of yogic powers. So in that mood, if you can worship him and give him Krishna Prasad, offer him Krishna Prasad, then you can give it to everybody.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay, Mother. Thank you. Okay, so we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri